Hello, everyone, and welcome to our today's session. Thank you so much for waiting. Okay, so my name is Alina. I'm an Education USA advisor, and Education USA Virtual is again with you to offer another interesting webinar. As you might know, on our website, you can find the agenda of all the webinars that we are going to hold for this month. And we already told you that in June and July, we're going to focus on standardized tests and English proficiency tests. A lot of webinars already can be found on our YouTube page. But we have 3 more left, including the one that we'll have today, 3 more left for July. So stay tuned. Submit your questions in the chat box. Being active is very important for us. Address your question and you'll get the answer from the representative, so from the speaker. Thank you once again for joining us today. And I will just start saying that today is dedicated to a topic that is very, very long-awaited by our undergraduate students, by the students who want to prepare for the SAT test. And we know that sometimes it must be a struggle for the students to do the preparation process, and they might be lost in this preparation process. So we invited once again Matthew from College Board. He already did with us a webinar in September last year, but of course there are a lot of updates always, and there are a lot of questions that you guys might also have. So we'll have the presentation, and then we'll focus also on the Q&A session. So stay active, guys. Submit your questions in the chat, and I'll just give the floor to Matt. Thank you, Matt, once again.
Thank you so much, Alina. Thanks for having me back. It's great to be here. It's wonderful to be able to present to so many different students in so many different places and to share with you the most helpful information that you need for the SAT test specifically, which is how to practice. If you are here at a webinar about the SAT, it's obvious that you care about this, that this is something that you want to do well on. And so I'm going to share with you all of the best tips that you can have, the best tools that you could possibly need for the SAT. And then I'll make sure that we get a lot of time for your questions as well. So without any further ado, let's get into it quickly so we can make sure we cover all of these things so that we have time for questions. Can you see the next slide, please? Is there something that I can click to the next slide? Aha. Okay, great. So the first thing, just really quickly, is why it's important to have the SAT. Now, during COVID, many universities did some of their own research, and they found out that the SAT is actually very helpful to make sure that they have a really good student body, that the students are doing really well, that they're ready to work at these universities. And so you'll see some of the most prestigious universities in the United States, like Yale, Brown, a lot of the Ivy League, some of the big state schools like UT Austin, they now require the SAT again. Schools that do not require the SAT, they may be called test optional. Basically, for an international student, that is a student outside of the United States, they're going to want to see the SAT, even if they say that it's not required. So very much in your or another standardized test on your application. Next slide, please. Sorry, can we get the next slide?
Matthew, are you good? Are you able to see the presentation? I think maybe we have some technical issues. Sorry about that, guys. We will wait for Matt to reconnect once again to the webinar. Sorry for that. That might happen. That's normal. And I really like the introduction that Matt made about the test optional policy. And many of you have already submitted the question, why is it so important and why the universities are coming back from the test optional policy? Matt, are you here with us again? Can you hear us?
I'm here, yes. Thank you. I got disconnected.
Okay, no problem. Is it this one that you wanted or
the next one? Yeah, so thank you. Before I got disconnected, sorry about that, everybody. I just wanted to say that if you go to a school outside of the United States, it's a really, really good idea to take a standardized test, because what it does is it shows the university. Maybe you go to a school in Kazakhstan and you get all A's at your school. The university might not know very much about that school. They want to feel more confident about the grades that you got there. So to have something external to help validate or to confirm the scores that you got in your school is something that they really, really like. So almost 90% of students who are outside of the United States find that the SAT helps to confirm how they did in school. So that's, again, why it's really important. If we could skip ahead, please, to the next slide. I'll skip this one just for time's sake, please. Great. So what is the actual digital SAT? It has been a digital test for the last few years, which means that it's a much quicker test. Next slide, please. It used to take 3 hours to take this test, which is a lot of time. It was pretty taxing, pretty stressful for a lot of students. It's now basically about 2 hours. And we did that by making the number of questions much less. Next question. Next slide, please. Both for the math section and for the reading writing section, you can see it's less total questions, less total time. Next slide, please. And the way that we do that is by making the test adaptive. What adaptive means is that you answer questions in 2 different parts for each of these sections. In the first part of it, you can be given a mixture of questions that are easy, medium, hard, so that we get a good idea about what your general level is. So that in the second part, or the second module, you're only going to get questions that are appropriate to your level. So that you're either going to get a more hard questions on average or more easy questions on average. Everybody asks this, so let me tell you right now, do not get questions wrong on the first part here so that you get an easier section for the second part that you can do better on. It's not going to work well for you. The best strategy is to answer as many questions right as you possibly can, and to even take an educated guess on the ones that you're not sure of. You're not going to get counted wrong for questions that you get wrong. But this is what you're going to see. You'll see it'll be a little bit more specific to you. You'll see less easy questions or less hard questions when you get to the second half of both the math section and the reading and writing section. Next slide, please. So what we're all here to know is how we can practice for the digital SAT. One of the interesting things about the test is that you take it on your own laptop or tablet. You download an app onto your computer called Blue Book, and it is where you actually bring in your own computer to a test center and take it on the Blue Book app on your computer that locks your computer so that you can't use anything else while you're doing it, except for that one app. But that app is also where you can practice for the test. Next slide, please. And you definitely should practice. There's a lot of information on the slide. Don't worry about it. But basically what we're seeing here is the more times that you practice for the SAT, the more likely your score is going to go up. Students ask me all the time, if I practice, how much should I practice? What kind of a score can I hope to achieve? Like, can I get a bigger score if I practice for more times, et cetera, et cetera? Overall, if you take the SAT practice test like one time, you can maybe get like 25 points higher. So if you had a 1200 on the first time around, you can maybe level up and get a 1225. And that increases up to like 60 points on the third time that you take it. And as you see here, these different graphs, the lower your original score is, the more chance you have to get a higher score. So don't worry about the details of this. Just take away from this slide that it is a good idea to practice on average. The more times that students practice these tests and learn about these things, the better they do. So yes, there is a benefit to practicing for the SAT, but it is a limited benefit. You're not going to be able to change things. If you see here, and none of these places are taking the additional test going to give you hundreds of extra points. It's mainly going to be a small upward adjustment of a few tens of points. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So when you download Blue Book onto your computer, there are 2 things that you're going to be able to do. The first is a test preview, where you'll be able to go in and see exactly how the test looks like. How long are the reading passages? What does the calculator look like? How can you use it? It's a very, very complex calculator. if you can practice with it ahead of time, the better. You're going to play around with it, learn how all the controls work. There's even a nice little tutorial that you can use to get really comfortable with how the digital exam works. Once you do that, you can then take a full-length practice test. That's the thing here on the right. There are 6 of them online, 6 full-length practice tests. Should you take all 6 practice tests one after another and try to just ramp up your score that way? The answer is no. You should only take one, and then you should do what I'm going to say is kind of my plan for practicing after that. Next slide, please, before you take a second practice test. So you'll log into mysat.collegeboard.org, and there'll be instructions for this that I'll share at the end of the PowerPoint slide. But basically, after you take one practice test, you can go and review your answers and see what it is that you got right and what it is that you got wrong. And that's important because you can only really improve on this test if you get an understanding of what it is that you need to learn or add to your knowledge to do better on the next test. This is not a test that you can get better just by taking it. This is a test that you can get better at by learning the things on the test that you didn't know before. Next slide, please. So you can see here, there's a little QR code that you can scan if you'd like about My Practice 101. This is all the information that I'm going over now, exactly how to do this. But basically, take a practice test, look at your score, see what you did. We're going to give you a really nice description of everything that you got right, that you got wrong. You can review it all, and you can start to identify specific areas or specific skills that you need to improve on in order to get a higher score. And then you can go to a practice question bank that has a huge list of hundreds of questions that you can then pick for difficulty level, topic, and you can basically focus on the different questions that you need to improve on to get better at your test and not focus on the things that you already know. Next slide, please. This is what it'll look like. Huge access to lots of different tests. You can see what your score is. You can take different practice tests and review your answers. Next slide. And you're going to want to focus on these 8 major skills. And when you get a kind of a report card from us about how you've done on your practice tests, you'll be able to see what are the things that I'm strong in, what are the things that I need work in. Whenever I took a practice ASAT test in the past, I found out that there was basically one math skill that I was really lacking, and it was in advanced math. And so when I looked at my report card, next slide, please, I was able to see that there was really, next slide, we'll go a couple slides forward here. A little bit forward, please. Forward, please. We're just skipping this stuff because of time. Forward, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Don't worry, guys. This is nothing you need to know right now. Next slide, please. Here we are. When you look at your report card after you take a practice test, you'll be able to see this, which is really nice. It is basically showing you where your strengths and where your weaknesses are. So this is not mine, but this is somebody's. And you can see here, advanced math is something that they're very strong at. They were able to get the majority of the questions right. The bar for advanced math is very high. They did it on difficulty level. That's very, very good for them. They would instead want to focus their time on practicing geometry and trigonometry. As you can see it there on the bottom right, they got many fewer questions correct, and they were actually on the easier level. So that's something that they very much want to focus on. When it comes to reading and writing, it's a little bit less specific or a little bit harder to study for than the math, because math, it's either a skill that you know or you don't. You either know Pythagorean theorem or you don't. But when it comes to reading and writing, we can ask you about anything. We can ask you texts about science, about literature, about social history, anything we want. And what we're going to be asking you are questions that are more things about, like, what are the ideas? What are the main ideas? What are the main points of this essay? What are the organization and the structure of it? But if you go and you actually start studying these skills that you're having a harder time with, so for example, on this report card, expression of ideas would be the thing that you would want to focus on if you wanted to practice your reading and writing skills. You can then go and see exactly how these questions in general, regardless of what specifically content-wise we're asking you, you can see specifically how the questions are structured so that in the future, when you start taking more questions in expressions of ideas, you'll be more familiar and comfortable with the way that these questions are structured, and you will do better. Next slide, please. Khan Academy is also a very important part of this. Once you've taken a practice test and there is something that you know that you want to practice and you want to get better at specifically, you can go over to Khan Academy. It's a free website. They're our official partner. And they basically, if there's something in math or there's something in reading and writing that you just don't really know or understand, for me, when I took a practice SAT test, that was the quadratic formula. You can go back and learn from the beginning. You can have one of their educators on their videos, quizzes, worked examples, really take you from the beginning and make sure that you truly understand something like the quadratic formula so that you go from just guessing when you see that question on a test to then being able to confidently understand and master the concept. So if my SAT practice tests are for you to identify the areas that you want to improve, Khan Academy is the place to learn those skills that you still need to improve on. So identify with my SAT, learn with Khan Academy. Next slide, please. Again, they are lined up perfectly with all of those skills that I showed you on the report card. They have each one broken down by skill level. So basically you can see exactly where it is that you need to plug in and where are those lessons there. You can just click through the math skills and see, take a quiz. Do I know this skill or do I not know this skill? Based on what you did on my SAT test, like how did you do? Is that the place where you need to go there? You'll get really, really quickly to the place at Khan Academy that you need to be to start really learning and beefing up your knowledge in skills that you can see from your report card that you were still having trouble with. Next slide. And you can see here, this is what it looks like. It has each skill broken down exactly like it is on the real SAT test. Next slide, please. And then you can even like create a course for yourself or have a teacher create one for you based on what it is that you want to learn skill-wise. Next slide, please. So now we come to the greatest and newest part of the whole thing for free resources. You've taken a test preview. You see how the test looks and how it works. You've taken a practice test to give yourself a diagnostic, to get an idea of what it is are your strengths and your weaknesses. You've looked at your report card. You've identified those skills. You've gone to Khan Academy. You've learned the things you did not learn before. So now the last thing you want to do is to practice those things that you've newly learned from Khan Academy. Next slide, please. And the Student Question Bank is a fantastic place because we give you thousands of questions that you can then pick specifically. You can pick which test it is that you're taking, whether you want to focus on reading, writing, or math. You can pick it on the actual skill level and the difficulty level. Next slide. So that instead of doing an entire new digital SAT test practice that's going to include lots of questions that you don't need practice with because you already know them really well. With this question bank, you can focus just on those types of skills, whether they're reading and writing or whether they're mathematics, that you want to focus on getting better at. So it's a much better use of your time. And you can see here, just like on the practice test, it's going to give you the question. It's going to tell you what the right answer was. It's going to give you a whole description and explanation of why that was the right answer to really help you make sure that you are understanding what it is that you still need to understand and what you need to learn. Next slide, please. I'm feeling good about our time. We're going to make it. So again, you select the area that you want here on the question bank. This is available on mysat.collegeboard.org. I'll show a link at the end of this talk. Next slide, please. And so for me, for example, I want to focus on nonlinear equations, so like polynomial expressions and the quadratic formula. My reading and writing is really good. I don't need to worry about that at all. If I've got limited time to practice for the SAT, I'm going to focus on the one thing in math that I know that I'm not really good at. I've gone to Khan Academy. I feel like I understand polynomial expressions and quadratic formula better than I did in the past. So now I can check. Now I can make myself my own quiz, my own SAT practice quiz that focuses only on those specific math skills that I'm trying to focus on. So you'll see here, every single one is in the domain of advanced math. Every single one is that specific skill. So now rather than taking dozens and dozens of questions that I can easily get that I don't need to worry about, I can just focus on the thing that matters. Next question, next slide, please. And then you can see here, it's going to give you all this information about exactly, there's the question on the left, there's the answer on the right. I'm going to work it out on the left, and then I'm going to go check and see, okay, did I get the right answer? No, I chose another one. Why was that wrong? And then I start working through this, and I'm just really focused on the thought process for this specific math skill, so that hopefully I can go from not understanding advanced math stuff to understanding it, that's the best place where I can bump up my score higher in those things that I don't know yet. Just like on those bar graphs I showed you at the beginning of the presentation, the place where you can improve your score the best is going from the things that you're not already good at, the things that you still need to improve on or learn, as opposed to the things that you're already really good at. Next slide, please. And then this is the last slide. I'll just go one more slide, please. And I'm happy to share this spreadsheet and all of these things with you. You can take a screenshot if you'd like of this. I've been racing through this presentation. Everything that I've talked about is all here, all online, very nicely there for you as links that you can see. How to practice, how Blue Book works, how to build a study plan for yourself, and how to use content, Khan Academy, all these things. So much information. You guys will be ready for this. And the only limit is how much you want to start studying for this. So with that, I'm free to take questions.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you. I mean, we were really quick on this because we really wanted to focus on the questions that the students have addressed us in advance, and they will address us during our Q&A session. So you guys have the opportunity to submit now your questions in the chat box, but we'll start now with those who submitted them earlier before we started with this webinar. So one of the first question is it better to study by yourself, or is it better to buy some course preparation for SAT?
So that's a great question. We provide a lot of really good resources online, all the ones that I've shown you, and they're all 100% free. The one thing in life that is free, but sometimes is hard to take advantage of, is pushing yourself to study. Sometimes you need someone who is a teacher, that's exactly what they're there for, to help you learn. You're the one doing the learning, but they're the one kind of giving you instructions about how to prepare and how to do that. Sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming knowing where to start, some of those things. A person can be there to help guide you study for yourself, but you need to understand that it's up to you ultimately to study for yourself. There are some students who are very smart, they're very ambitious, and they don't need anybody's help to do really well. There's other people who do better if they have a guide or a coach or a trainer who can help them. So I think that's where it's going to be the best for you. But no tutor, and I apologize to any tutors that are here on the chat, they don't have any secret. There's no trick to this. What they're going to be doing is help you to study better, but you're the one who's going to be having to do all the study. They don't have access to some secret information that you don't. They're there to be a coach, not to be a magician.
I totally agree. I think it's the same case like with advising. I mean, it's the student who needs to push himself or herself to study or to do better with the preparation process. So yeah. I totally agree here. Okay, the next question, how to work on minor mistakes that damage the score?
That's a great question. And I will just kind of repeat again what it is that I said. This is exactly what you should be focusing on, the minor mistakes. You should feel pretty good about most of all of that you're doing on the SAT, but there should be one or two things that when you take a practice test, they're a minor mistake that you can see you're just not doing well on. That's something you really want to improve on, and that's what you want to focus on. So when you focus on it by identifying it through reviewing your right and wrong answers on your practice SAT, going to Khan Academy and relearning them or learning them from the first time, practicing them, and then going to the question bank to give yourself a lot of practice so that you feel confident about things that you didn't know before.
Thank you. The next question, as a third-year student in high school, if I pass the SAT this year, would it be useful in 2027?
Great. It would. your SAT score stays valid for a few years. It basically stays valid until you start at college. So if you get a score and you love it, you're very happy with that score, you've got one more year of high school, and then maybe you're going to take a year off or do something else, work for a little while, and then use that SAT score. That should be totally fine.
Okay, thank you. What are the most effective resources to use while revising for the SAT?
The practice tests on Blue Book, Khan Academy for learning new material, and then the My SAT question bank for reviewing new skills. Those are the best resources. We have a online, a printed out guide that you can buy. I put it as one of the links there. But you have to remember, this is a digital test, and you're going to be taking it on your computer. And so I believe that the best way to practice for a digital test is to use resources digitally. Luckily, all of those digital resources are free and available to you.
Okay, thank you. How can I speed up the math reviewing to only 1 week?
Take a practice test. If you only have 1 week, take a practice test and identify one skill and see if there's something, see if you can learn something that you didn't know before about how this works. Really, it's about trying to identify what you don't know.
Okay, thanks. The next one, can I reach plus 1,500 with self-preparation?
Unfortunately, the answer to this question is it depends. If you took a test and you've never taken it before and you got a 1490, then absolutely yes, you can reach a 1500 without self-preparation. Technically, everything is available for you for free to learn for you to get a 1500 because you would get all of the questions right if you understood all of the content that is on the exam. But that basically requires you to learn all of those things. So if you only have a couple weeks to practice and the first time that you got a test, you got like a 900, getting to a 1500 in a month is not really going to work out. As you saw on the chart that I showed you, as a student takes the test 1 or 2 or 3 times, the highest that you're hoping to get is to improve your score by about 100 points. Of course, every student is different, but you shouldn't really be thinking about trying to make a difference of 200 points, 300 points, 400 points immediately from one time to the other. But it is possible. For example, let's say you take the test one time your junior year, and then you take the test again your senior year, then you can actually improve a couple hundred points. But this is a test to measure what it is that you learned. And so if you don't learn anything new, then your test score is not going to change. Just practicing the test itself is not going to help you improve your score that much.
Okay, that's good to know, by the way. Thanks. The next one, when does it matter to pass SAT? If my one practice test score is 1,130, how much time I would need to get 1,500 if I'm able to spend approximately 4 or 5 hours a day?
So if you're trying to improve your score like this and you really want to spend a lot of time with this, you should be not focusing on taking the actual SAT test. You should be focusing on the practice tests because they're exactly the same and they're free. So take a practice test, see where it is that you get. The first time around you got an 1130, great. Spend 1 month or spend 2 weeks using this kind of practice method that I talked about, looking at all your answers, identifying specific skills that you want to improve at, going and practicing in them and working on them. And then after you've got a specific amount of time that you've practiced, take another practice test and see how much of a difference that has made. That'll give you a better idea of what the progress you can actually expect is going to be. But let me also tell you, this is frustrating. Every time that you do that, you practice and you take another test, the improvement is going to be less. Because the best chance for you to improve is from when you've actually begun and when you've started. And the things are going to get smaller and smaller as you've gotten better on. So you're not going to, you can't really work super hard really quickly. It's much more about actually learning things in the long term. So you need to be patient with yourself that this is a slow process and that getting a score from 1,100 to 1,500 is usually a process of years, not of something that you can force in a month or two.
Okay, that's good to know. And then when is it the best time to start preparing for it? Like just having the test in your, I don't know, ninth or 10th grade and then just taking
So
it?
one thing, yeah, that's a great question, Elena. So one thing that you should know is that the SAT, I know this sounds really simple, but the SAT test measures what you've learned in high school. And so unless you've been reading ahead in the book or you've been taking advanced classes, you shouldn't know everything that's on the SAT in the ninth grade because you haven't learned it in school yet. Basically, the SAT test is for everything that you've learned 9, 10, 11, and 12th grade. Some students can do well in the 11th grade because they've learned a lot of the skills, or maybe they're in a more advanced math class. But basically, it mirrors what it is that you've learned in high school itself. And so if it would be better to take a PSAT test, which is basically like the last year or two of high school taken off of the SAT and just focused on it. But if you've just taken regular classes, it's not really possible for you to do very, very well on the SAT because you haven't learned those things yet in school.
Okay, thank you. The other question, if I suppose the question is if SAT is allowed or recognized in European university.
Yes, they accept the SAT test all over Europe. It is, along with AP courses, it's something that is kind of a really nice general thing for you to have for applying to universities in places in Eastern Europe or in Western Europe. So places like Italy, the Netherlands, the UK, they all accept and they recognize the SAT. It's a really good thing for you to have if you come from a country like Azerbaijan, for example, where they're going to be less familiar with the education system there, and they may not necessarily accept an Azerbaijani national diploma. They want some sort of international credential so that you can apply, and the SAT is a fantastic one because they accept it almost everywhere.
Okay, thank you. The next question, my son's SAT results are delayed. What might be the reason?
Sometimes we make an additional check if there was some irregularity or some issue that was going on that's maybe not even related to their one particular test. We just need to double check things to make sure that we feel confident about the score. That's oftentimes a reason for the delay because it's not just about the one student score themselves. We will get back to you about it. It was a digital score, so it's not like it's lost. We have it. We're just doing additional checks to make sure that we can validate the score.
Thank you. The next question, how much time does it usually take to prepare for SAT? And the second part, is it more or less difficult to pass compared to GMAT? Here is a bit different, the purposes of the tests.
Yeah, they're very different tests. GMAT is the one for being a lawyer, is that right?
Postgraduate students. Yes, that's for graduate students usually. So yes, you cannot really compare them.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to compare them. I know that you need to practice a lot for both of them.
Yes.
Usually for practicing for the SAT, each person is different, but again, the best way to practice for the SAT is to be a student in high school. The actual practicing that you're doing or the focusing specifically on the test is to try to get a few more points or to just kind of really help to fix some of the easy to fix problems. But there's no real way that you can just use the force of studying a lot at the end to really try to change the results here. It's more about making sure that you're getting a difference of 50 points, 100 points, not 500 points in the last month or two.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to mention here that GMAT is actually a test that is designed for students that want to take their graduate degree, and especially for those who want to enter business schools. So yes, just to let you know, but I'm more than sure that your Education USA advisor in the region can give you more advising on that. The next question, if I register for the August SAT, shall I enter as class 12 or 11th?
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that you would actually put it as, it depends on when your school actually starts. So if you have not started that school year, the 2025-2026 school year, then I would put class 11. But like, for example, in the United States, some schools begin in August. And so you would have actually started 12th grade. And so it actually depends on when you're actually beginning your school. If you've not started school yet for the year, put 11th. If you have started school, put the 12th on the day of the actual test.
Okay, thank you. Are there special time management tips when it comes to the SAT? Considering the fact that also the questions have a limit of time to get answered, if you can just
Great
advise
question.
here. Yeah.
So one thing about the digital SAT that's great is you do not need to answer the questions in order. We set it up, and you'll see this when you go into the test preview. You can skip around. We keep track of which questions you've answered and which questions you haven't. You can basically see a nice little summary page that shows you all of the questions. And so my best time management tip is that you need to go in there and practice and see, how do you want to take this test? Taking it every question just in order is probably not the best strategy for you. What I mean is, do you want to give yourself more time to answer difficult questions? Do you want to go through and answer all of the easy questions first and then go and give yourself more time for the difficult questions? Do you like to limit the question down to two answers that it is that you're choosing between? There are different ways to approach this based on what feels most comfortable for you, but you're not going to know what works best as a time-saving strategy until you've actually tried it yourself. So go in there and see what it is that you feel best with. Some difficult questions, you feel like you can maybe come back and on the tip of your tongue or the edge of your brain. Some of them you look at it and go, I'm never going to answer that. I'm just going to choose something randomly and just move on. So that's up to you, and we give you the tools so that you just can take the test any way that you want.
Thank you. The next question, I think we already discussed about that, but how important is the SAT in college admissions?
So the thing, again, that's really important for a student who wants to apply to the United States, who's not from the United States already, is that every country has a different system of education. There are many systems of education within each country. Some people go to an American school, some people go to a national school. There's a lot of things for someone at a university to know. So it's really can be overwhelming for them. And sometimes they have a little bit of difficulty making sure that the student who's coming from a country that they don't really know very well is ready to go to that university, which is what they want to figure out. But the SAT test is the same everywhere. It's the same in Moldova. It's the same in Kyrgyzstan. It's the same in Nebraska. So that makes them feel more comfortable that whether or not you got A's in your class, whether or not you were in the national spelling bee in Uzbekistan, that doesn't matter. They've got something universal that they can use as a guide for everything else that's in your application. So in that way, if you don't go to school in the United States, it's very, very important that you help the university choose you by giving them something that they can feel confident about in your application.
Thank you. The next question, someone is asking how to choose between DSAT and ACT.
So I'm happy to talk about this, but I want you to know that I work for the organization that makes the SAT. The ACT is another organization that basically is like a competitor to us. What I will say is they are very similar tests, and a score in one, basically everybody knows what the other score and the other test would be. It's basically what we call like a correlation. So if you got a 1300 on the SAT, that would be the same as whatever, like in the 30s or whatever, that would be on the ACT. Many times people are told, or they think, oh, this test is easier, this test is harder. That's not true, because we've basically tested thousands and thousands of students, and we've seen that there's a really clear correlation or relationship between specific scores on the test. So what I would do is take a practice test for both of them. I believe ACT practice tests are also free, and you can just see which one you feel more comfortable at. Not one of them is going to be easier than the other. They're basically both challenging in different ways, but you can get a sense of like which format you like better and choose that way. But there's no secret that no one knows that one test is somehow easier than the other.
And can we please clarify, is the SAT similar to SAT kind of, or that's something different?
We just, because it's the digital SAT, when we first came out with it, we wanted to distinguish between the digital version of the test and the old paper-based version. But basically every test now is a DSAT. We don't call it that, we just call it the SAT now, but I think he's referring to the digital SAT.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, the next question, and it comes with many more other questions, and then we can switch to those that we have in the chat. How to improve on the difficult diagram questions, and then we can just answer them.
Sure. So The diagram questions is, I believe, one of the skills that's associated with data analysis. So we ask you a lot of questions about charts, diagrams, graphs, things like that. That is an important part of skills that you need to know to be successful in college. So yes, there's going to be a lot of questions about that specifically, but it's a specific type of question. So you can go and select both on Khan Academy and on the question bank for questions specifically about data analysis, and then to focus on those to get more practice and more understanding of how we structure data analysis questions so that questions that have diagrams are more comfortable and familiar to you. As for studying vocabulary, I really like this question. The SAT test in the past, it was maybe like an idea, like a general kind of a stereotype about the test, was that it was a test about hard words or difficult SAT words, we would even call them. Studying individual words is not a very helpful way to study for this test now, because we've changed the emphasis from difficult words to something that we call words in context, which means maybe this is a word that has a more general meaning, but in this specific text that we're going to show you, it's being used in a specific way. And you can't really know that until you've actually seen that there. So rather than having a stack of cards with different difficult words on it that you're studying, you should not do that. What you should do instead is read texts in as many different genres as possible. What do I mean by that? You should be reading scientific articles. There's a magazine online called Scientific American. You can go read it for free. It'll talk about astronomy. It'll talk about geology. It'll talk about what's the study of insects? It's not insectology, entomology. Read all of those different texts so that you feel that you're comfortable reading in English and all types of things, because you'll see it when you do a practice test in the SAT. The reading and writing section, it's not about English literature. It's about anything you could possibly read in university in the English language. Science, social science, politics, philosophy, memoir. So rather than focusing on vocabulary, you should try to read in as many different subjects and topics as possible, so that you just have more vocabulary that's very broad: science, history, philosophy, so that you feel more comfortable reading all different types of texts. That's a much better way to practice than just studying vocabulary.
And then the last part, is acing the math sections all about practice, or does that apply about?
It's a great question. Acing the math section is about knowing all of the specific math skills that we ask. There's a specific list of math skills: algebra, geometry, data analysis, advanced math. Advanced math is things like exponential equations, quadratic formula, polynomial expressions. There is a specific finite list of math skills that we ask about. If you know all of those skills really well, you will get a perfect score on the math stars. If there are things about the math score that you do not understand, it will be difficult for you and you'll get those questions wrong. It's as simple as that.
Okay, thank you. Then I'm going to focus, and I'm going to switch to the questions that we have in the chat here, because we have also a lot of them. So the first question: what is a good score for applying to top colleges?
This is not a mystery. It is very clear, specifically in the United States, what score you need. However, the score that you need is different for every single university. The good thing is every university is very clear about what it is that they're looking for. And what you can do is you can go and you can say, well, you can type in basically, can I write this in the chat here? That's fine. You can basically, it'll show you what the middle 50%, the normal 50% for students at a university, what score do they get on the SAT? So if you get a score that's higher than the normal 50%, then you are a competitive student for that university. If you get an SAT score that's lower than the 50%, then you should probably have other things in your application that are also important. So let's say, for example, the middle 50% of students at Stanford get a 1400 to a 1550, and your score is a 1330. There's not really a good chance that you're going to get into that school if you're not in that middle 50%, unless you've done something else, like you came up with a a cure for cancer, or that you've invented a better rocket, or you've done something amazing that helps support all of the other things that your SAT score is not really that good. On the other side, if you get a score and you're applying to, for example, the University of Maryland, and your SAT score is higher than like 80% of the students that are applying for there, not only do you have a good chance of getting in, you're also going to have a chance for getting a scholarship. And so it really helps you figure out very clearly how competitive or how appealing are you for that specific university in comparison with other students. That's again why an SAT score is so nice, because it takes a lot of the guesswork out. It's very, very clear and easy. Like, do you have a score to be competitive at this university, or do you not?
Thank you. The next question, is it possible to improve the math section without a tutor?
Absolutely. You can practice completely on your own if you are a smart and hardworking student who uses all of the free resources that I've explained. You are patient with yourself. You really learn things that you didn't understand before. You do not need a tutor at all.
And the next question also about math. What would you recommend we can do to get better at math, like Desmos studies?
Unfortunately, Anastasia, I don't know what Desmos Studies is. Desmos, all I understand that to be is the calculator that's available on the SAT test. I'm not sure about a lot of other resources. I feel very confident that there are a lot of great resources out there. Maybe Desmos Studies is a tutoring program. I'm sure that works great. The only thing that I can really officially recommend is Khan Academy, because they're our official partner, and we've worked on them since before the digital SAT even came out. But there's a lot of great resources that are there. I know, and this is true for me, it's probably true for a lot of other students as well, one of the best resources in the world for learning anything, whether it's astronomy or the SAT test, is YouTube. There are incredible teachers out there in all kinds of subjects. If you like video, and if that's a way that's really helpful for you to learn, then YouTube is the tool for you. There's other people who need to read from a physical book. That's just the way that they learn information. They need to have a pencil. They need to write it down. That's the way that it works for them. The best way to study is the way that's the best study for you. And there's a lot of great resources out there.
Thank you. The next one, specifically practice in the Blue Book, where there is not a full test without answers. I'm not sure if I understood the idea of the question.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer what I think the question is, which is there's two things that you can look at. There's one, a sample list of questions. They don't change. And the point of that is not to practice the test, it's to practice how the test looks, how the calculator works, all the different tools we have there. And then there are 6 full-length practice tests, exact amount of questions, exact amount of time that it's going to be. But it's a finite resource. Once you've taken those 6 tests, there's not going to be more for a while. So you need to be take those when you're really ready to practice again. And if you actually want to practice specific questions or skills, you should go to the question bank. You should not actually take the digital SAT test, because you want to save those to get a really good idea of where your score is overall at that time.
Okay, the next question. When does the SAT score expire?
The SAT score expires when you, I believe it's 5 years, or when you go to college.
Okay, thank you. In your opinion, what is the right age to get a best score? Also, what is the best advice to be well prepared? I think a lot of advices you already gave about being well prepared, but...
Yeah, I'll skip the second question, but I will tell you the first question. Very common in the United States, a student will take the SAT test their senior year in the fall, because again, you want to take it as far into high school as possible, so you've had the most time to actually prepare for the test. But another thing that's really popular that students in the United States do is they take it at the end of the 11th year of school. And if they're happy with that score, then they're done. But if they want to still give them some time to practice and focus, then they can spend the summer between their 11th grade and the 12th grade studying, and then they can take the SAT test for a second time in the fall of their last year, their 12th year of school. That's something that oftentimes happens. But again, it's an expensive test. We give you all the free practice resources there. I really don't want students to have to take this test more than twice. Even if you're going to take it for a second time, you should feel as though there was something that was wrong that first time, or that you could really, really improve things. It's not that you're going to take a test. If you took a test one time and then you took it again the second day, you're going to get the exact same score because nothing's really changed.
Okay. The next question, can Desmos give us a score up to 600, 700? It's again about Desmos.
I guess Desmos is a tutoring program. Unfortunately, I don't know about them, so there's nothing I could say.
Okay, the next question from David. Are there any websites or apps you could recommend where we can do practice tests and see the score we can reach? I think you already mentioned that.
Yes, the appendix that I gave will give you all the great information. It's again, my SAT practice, the Blue Book, Khan Academy, and the question bank.
And here is the one that you also already answered. If I use all 6 attempts to pass the practice test, will there be no more tests? Yes, no more tests.
You are right. So that's why you need to be careful with those tests and not use them all up at once.
Okay, good. Which one is used for National Merit Scholarship, SAT or ACT?
It is it's actually neither. It's the PSAT that has the National Merit Scholarship. But unfortunately, for now, I see the Georgian flag in your avatar, Batang. It is only available for students with U.S. passports. So you would not be eligible for the National Merit Scholarship, unfortunately.
Okay, yes, he continued actually his question, which one is preferable for university, SAT
The
or
SAT
ACT?
and the ACT are both regarded the exact same by almost every university.
Okay, then the next question also from Bahtang, why are Blue Book practice tests easier than the actual SATs?
It shouldn't be. They should be the exact same test. They should be the exact same score. If you took a Blue Book practice test on day 1 and the actual SAT test on day 2, your score should be within just a couple tens of points of each other.
Okay, the continuation of his question, shall we expect more practice tests in Blue Book?
We do add occasionally more practice tests on Blue Book. We kind of, as time goes on, we add old test forms to it, but I don't have a specific schedule for it, and it is a little bit slow. So the 6 tests that we have there, I think if you look at kind of the plan that I've set out, where you're using them sparingly after you've spent a good amount of time learning new skills and working on the question bank, I think you should find that doing it right, using the other resources as well, 6 full-length practice tests is more than enough to really help you improve as much as you possibly can before you actually take the SAT.
Okay, thank you. The last question in the chat, what is the minimum score for the US universities?
Every university is different. Some of them will have minimum scores. Some won't have any minimum score at all, but they will have basically a suggested score or an average score, and you should take those seriously. If you have a really low score compared to what the normal student has in there, then you need to either think about other things that you're going to be submitting on your application, or more importantly, and this is not a problem, it may not be the right university for you. The SAT is also a tool for you to help you select a university. You do not want to go to a university where the SAT score is way higher than the one that you've gotten, because that'll be very challenging for you, and it's very likely that it would be overwhelming. You could drop out. You could be a really, really bad fit. It's also about you finding a really good fit for a university. So use the SAT as a tool to help you understand what universities you would do the best and thrive at.
Thank you. Then I have like 3 or 4 more questions that we have addressed from the people who submitted questions in advance. How much time is needed to prepare for the SAT evidence-based reading and writing section?
The answer would be 18 years, which is from the time you were born till the time that you graduate high school. Every single thing that you've read, whether it is a novel, poetry, a science book, all of that goes into you being better at the evidence-based reading and writing. It is very much a broad assessment of your skills for reading and writing in the English language overall.
Thank you. Then another big one. What are the biggest changes in the new digital SAT? How is the digital SAT different from the paper version in terms of difficulty? And are there any free College Board resources? Some of them you already answered, but be the second one.
There is something new here. So the biggest change, as I said, the biggest change is that it's gone from a 3-hour test to a 2-hour test, and then it's on your own computer as opposed to with a paper and pencil, which allows it to be a lot more flexible. In terms of difficulty, it is not any easier. It's not any more difficult. We did a lot of studies to make sure that the same exact score between the two tests means the exact same thing. So the difficulty has not changed at all. And any of the free College Board resources, they're all the ones that I've shared on this webinar.
Perfect. And another question here in the chat. I heard that getting exactly 1,600 out of 1,600 is not recommended. What do you think about it? Sorry for this, if this is an irrelevant question.
I have heard anecdotally, which means I've heard personally through stories before about schools sometimes being a little bit suspicious that a student would have a perfect score, or that it would be like a little bit of a sign of like, the student's like too perfect. But I have a really hard time feeling that it would ever be counted against you to get a perfect score in the SAT. If you can do it, you should do it. Don't get anything wrong on purpose just to get a lower score. If you can get a 1,600, they're going to put your name in the newspaper. It's a great thing to do. I wouldn't worry about it.
Do you have a lot of students who would get the maximum score, by the way?
No, it's not common at all. It's a pretty incredible thing to do. So if you can do it, do it.
For sure. Okay, so good luck with your preparation, guys. And yes, hope for more in case if you're expecting to get a maximum, why not? Okay, so I think we're done with all the questions. And thank you so much, Matt, for the presentation also and for all these new updates. I hope you guys enjoyed the session as we did, and you will use all the information that Matt shared with us. This session has been recorded, so you will be able to rewatch it on our YouTube channel and get also all these resources that Matt has shared with us previously. You can use for free. Thank you once again, Matt, and you guys have good luck with your preparation process or with your test if you are taking it soon. And yes, stay tuned for our new events that we have planned for July and for August. And I wish you good luck once more. Would love to hear your thoughts. So that's why we also put here a QR code where you can share your feedback about the webinars and let us know if you would like, maybe there are some other topics that we can also have in during our webinars. Thank you so much once more. And
thank you, Alina.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
See you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.